fear lurks, it stalks, it berates over and over and over again. It does not relent. Daniel Whalen. Fear is a very useful tool. It helps us to avoid doing stupidly dangerous things. When you come across a cliff, it's fear that stops you jumping off to see what's at the bottom. Or when a lion starts chasing you, it's fear that starts you running rather than stopping to see if you can negotiate with it. Fear is an essential part of our lives. We need it to keep us safe. But we're quickly growing past that. There are no longer anywhere near as many situations that require us to act before we have a chance to think. And there's another part to fear, that subtle nagging deep down, the butterflies in your stomach, so to speak. And when this fear is left unchecked, it grows. It can quickly morph from a subtle nagging about something mildly unpleasant to a feeling of complete terror about something that's really completely harmless. Today, here and now, fear itself is one of the most dangerous things that many of us will encounter. It's not physically dangerous. You don't see people limping along going, "Ah, me hearty, I lost me leg in the war of anxiety." But it does possess the power to drag you down off your life, get you stuck in the mud of anxiety. And fear today is growing. Over 1 in 4 people in New Zealand will be affected by anxiety. That's increased from 1 in 5 worldwide. Over half of all working adults interviewed said that they'd passed up opportunities for promotion because they were scared of new responsibility or even the possibility of failure. Over 70% of people suffer from a fear of simply speaking publicly. One day, you will fear something, and it'll change the way you do things. The most common response to a fear you can't overcome is to run away from it. This is a problem. If we're actively working to avoid fear, we're also avoiding these opportunities that help us to grow. And often you end up causing yourself to fail. For example, social anxiety will often cause you to distance yourself from others due to fear, ruining your social life and fulfilling that fear. Fear is a self-fulfilling prophecy. We need to fight it. Running away is not the solution. Firstly, I have to say, as a Year 12, I am by no means a professional, and anxiety is a serious mental health disorder, and so it's important for, when it all becomes too much, to seek professional help so that you can help to deal with hidden causes. However, often it is possible to overcome on your own and break free of that fear. One of the best ways to avoid fear is to succeed in the face of it. A saying I often hear is feel the fear and do it anyway. It's a great saying. If you can succeed in the face of fear, it proves to yourself that you can succeed and helps you lessen the power that fear holds over you. However, the problem comes when you can't succeed. Whenever you fail in confronting your fear, it helps the fear to grow. It makes you believe that you can't break free, that you are a failure, even though often the very reason that you failed is because you fear that. So how do we break out of this loop? One of the easiest ways to do this is with the help of a friend, someone to keep you accountable. Find someone who pushes you to confront your fears rather than reinforcing your failure. Set a goal with them and get them to hold you accountable to that goal. Make sure that they push you to confront your fear. Another way to fight fear is to take a break. Not give up, but simply step back and allow yourself to get a new perspective on an issue. Rather than the ultimatum, I will not sleep until this is done, which I have to say I'm guilty of on more than one occasion, it's far better to practice something like the Pomodoro technique, where you work for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break. This allows you to come back to your problem with a fresh perspective and often helps you to come up with new solutions, and often in the act of stepping back, you realize that the fear isn't as big as you first thought. And finally, one of my favorite ways to combat fear is through changing your perspective, your mindset. One of the fears that I struggle with most is a fear of failure. And what I found is that over time, my mindset on failure has been changing. For a caveman, failure was death. Simply surviving for another day was a glorious success. But I often catch myself thinking that anything less than perfection is failure. This year, I attempted a uni paper. Most people would see this as a massive success, an achievement to be proud of. But I screwed up during an easy assignment and went from an A+ to an A. This really upset me. I felt like I'd failed the paper. But what many people told me was that C's get degrees. If perfection is your goal, it makes sense to be afraid of it. It's simply unachievable. What needs to happen is a changing of that goal, that mindset, into something more reasonable. However, even real failure isn't something to be afraid of. It's simply an opportunity to learn, to grow. We shouldn't fear failure because it's always going to come. Instead, you need to learn to face it and to grow in it. Fear is a big part of our lives. It will always come, and how you react to it will become an important part of your character. Make sure you choose to stand and to fight.